Now I have also pleasure to welcome among us our another representative of very important organization which works with many years already to help children, and Mariam Lambert is in fact the founder of Emile Foundation, the foundation which recently has changed its name. Before it was, maybe you know it under the name Orphans Feeding Foundation, which was founded in 2011 in the Netherlands by Mariam and Emile Lambert. Emile Foundation provides logistical, financial, and operational support to assist in the safe return of children from the Belarusian and border and from Russian Federation. Emile Foundation is currently working on the reintegration and rehabilitation of 36 families whose children have been returned from deportation under the Qatar mediation. Mariam, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Olga. I'm very sorry that it's a bit difficult to speak after the documentary, because one of the childs has been returned from deportation in Kherson, and thanks to Victoria and your team, was transferred to Kiev. And what really was hard for me to watch is that when she managed that evacuation, the Artem had a train on his hand, but he's 16 years old. And you can't do anything else than thinking about your own children. I'm a mother of 3 children. It's very difficult to talk about it today, so I'm not very happy with Ibrahim, who just ruined my makeup and my presentation. But as you mentioned, we can talk for hours about statistics. For people who just joined and discovering deportation, what it is about, we are talking about 19,000 children, according to the Ukrainian authorities. We need also to highlight that the Russian Federation is very proud to say that they saved 700,000 children. But in reality, and according to Yale lab reports as well, they are mentioning 200,000. You can imagine the atrocity of the real figures, because we do not have access to all occupied territories of Russia. So it's very difficult today to give you proper figures. But every child could be your own child, your son, your daughter. That's how I feel every day. Since 2022, when I started in Ukraine, I sleep, I eat, I think about those children. So that's going to be a very difficult presentation, but it's because, you know, all the time when we do a presentation and we speak about the children deportation issue, it is not just a discussion. It is not about international law. It is not about the international warrant, because Alexandra Mavichuk always mentioned the Russian Federation always think that they are above that the international law doesn't apply to them. Therefore, we have to be creative. We have to try everything we can to return those children. And some of the mission we have, people are looking at us like, you're completely crazy, that's not going to work. We don't care whether it's going to work or not, because every child we can save, it's already a victory. So my name is Mariam Lambert. As you mentioned, I will not go into all of what our foundation is doing, but we've been involved, and also personally, everything we are doing in a mission, we have a point of making those missions ourselves. Why? Because as a non-Ukrainian, we want to avoid that people who are still believe that Russian propaganda will say, but you know, Ukraine has emotions, you know, Ukraine is making up those stories. No. We are from Belgium, but we are living the situation every day with the Ukrainian. We are witnessing those war crimes ourselves. We are witnessing the testimony directly from the families, from the children. This is why it's very important to mobilize the international community in order to help them to return the children, and not just financially or with another resolution, another declaration. I think, as the President Zelensky said a few days ago, thank you very much for your declaration, thank you very much for your support, but this needs to stop. We need to go above that. The same for the victory plan. We need to go beyond that, because everything that we are not deciding today, all of us here, all of us online, we are responsible for those children that you are watching. And this is the moral responsibility of the whole people in Europe, in the United States, everywhere. Every time you feel a bit insecure for your luxury situation, because you don't want your country to be in trouble with Russia, every day you indirectly contribute to those crimes. It's a bit harsh to say that, but that's the only way for everyone to understand that what they're asking is a survival mode. So our organization was working on evacuating children, families as well. I've been in Bakhmut, Soledar, Kherson. It was just the most horrific thing we could imagine. Our brain, our soul is not trained. And God bless the Ukrainian, they've been living that since 2014. But me, I'm working for an international organization, for the European Patent Organization for 18 years. And when I witnessed that, I decided to take a sabbatical year and to continue full-time, because once you meet people there, once you evacuate them, once you meet, I would say, the ghost, because in frontline villages, in Pokrovsk, in Kherson, in Zaporizhia, they are surviving. They are hoping that someone will evacuate them. They are hoping that the United States will make a gesture in helping Ukraine further. They are hoping that the military will get help for them to be safe. So this is also important to make sure that what we are seeing is reported back. And this is why we conducted a lot of evacuation, because this is also one of the aspects of deportation. People need to understand that the violation of the humanitarian law is the start of the deportation. Because green corridors have not been put in place, what do we mean by that? There was no safe road from the frontline villages to inside Ukraine. The Russian Federation refused to nominate a third country, to refuse to guarantee the safety of those civilians, of those children. So they were trapped. It's all an organized crime. They were trapped. If they wanted to save those children, as they said, in Russia, they could have saved them by making sure that this green corridor, as we call it, is safe enough for all the civilians to evacuate before it gets really dangerous for them. So this is why evacuation is very important, is one of the preventive ways of avoiding deportation. So all the stories, all the figures, I've been a bit telling you from one side to another side, because emotion is really taking me today. But it's very important that what we are asking is that those children who are still in Russia and occupied territories, they are asking you to tell their stories. They are asking you to protect their rights. They are asking you to restore their rights. The same way as we are today. We are free, we are in Europe, and we have no fear of anyone bombing us. Our organization works in three aspects. Humanitarian, which is something that is very well explained, and this is something that actually I think I'm having a panic attack today, because it's very difficult to breathe after seeing those children. But humanitarian is always linked to political outreach. Why? Because when you know that none of those laws has been respected, all the law that you can imagine have been violated. We talked about humanitarian law. There also human rights law has been violated, the Geneva Convention, the children armed conflict. You can imagine all this law has been completely violated. But the world didn't stop. People keep living. People keep thinking whether we should help further. This is the reason why it's very important to tell the stories. Because of this violation of the international law, we also believe, and that's one of the important aspects of our organization, that the only way, because we need to be creative, it's to reach out also to countries who are really have strong allies with Russia. Why? Because they believe in their propaganda. They believe in what they said. They believe that those children are being saved. So if we, here, since we are in the help course in the entity of the Council of Europe, I will also be taking the opportunity to explain that maybe we should think further how to communicate with those countries. You don't communicate with Brazil and China and India and Vietnam the same way as you will communicate with all the countries who gladly and thankfully joined the coalition under Bring Kids Back. This is why maybe with the Council of Europe, it's to start thinking of a narrative, of a document which could be a framework that could be utilized by those countries in order to explain that to Russia. Because pressure is important, and we believe, and we might be wrong, but we will try as well, that those countries are the ones who could put pressure. And the last one is the sanction. So the sanction, as Olena has mentioned this morning, is that because it is an organized crime, those children were targeted before the war in 2014, but even before the second invasion in 2022 in February. When you think about deportation, we don't talk about Putin or Maria Belova, where the first arrest has been sent, but we are talking about teachers, nurses, doctors, everyone in the chain, up to the families. Everyone has been participating for different reasons in transferring those children to Russia. They are sometimes telling that the child has a very serious sickness to the parents, to the legal guardian. Therefore, they need to be transferred in Rostov for further medical examination. The child will never come back. Same for the teachers. So all those people are also involved. And I think this is really important to apply also individual sanction. So that's the three pillars we are working on. Humanitarian, on the children issues, the political aspect, and the legal aspects. But all that, I think it's very important also to realize that we had a first-hand information from the ground. So we are collecting also evidence, and we need to have a proper framework in place, maybe by the Council of Europe again, because we are here, so it's time to ask what we need to do our work. Who could establish a framework for us to be able to monitor and to send those evidence properly for, I don't want to say if, but when there will be a special tribunal which will be established, hopefully soon, then we can transfer all this evidence to this special tribunal. Because there is no question, I heard that there are some political disagreement about this special tribunal. That again, that could be really detrimental for all those children who are returned, for all those children who are waiting for us to save them. The special tribunal needs to be established because it's not only about returning those children, it's not only about reintegration, which my colleague will explain from Voice of Children, because that's also very important, but it's also about making sure that those perpetrators are recognized and punished. So now, very last point, when a child is returned, it's very important to establish a proper mechanism. I know that as a civil society, I ask to be a bit diplomatic and not to say too much things which could be upsetting some people in politics or in the government. But it is really our duty to tell you also what doesn't work and what we can improve, how we can all work together to improve that. Is when a child is returned, different mechanism, we don't have a complete mechanism of return. which means that some of the children who were returned didn't have any other choice than going back to the frontline villages. This is, for me, impossible to accept. We are dealing every day with cases of children from Pokrovsk, who went back to Pokrovsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson. It's not Ukraine's fault. It's because Ukraine is already fighting a very, very absolutely horrific war. But it's because international partner needs to help more in order to establish a framework for those children when they are returned. We talk about housing, we talk about reintegration, we talk about mental health program. This is extremely important. But please, when we say it's important, and we had a ministerial conference which you attended, everybody has promises and everything, but this is happening today. Those children are returned today. Those children need to be also returned from Russia. So it's nice to talk, to have conferences and everything, but it's been like this for 2 years. I've been talking about the children deportation for 2 years. And we have only hundreds, few hundreds, maybe 1,000. Someone said that, that they were proud to say it's 1,000. 1,000 out of thousands and thousands of children. This is why we need to have a fast track, something that needs to be established quickly. I know that politics sometimes said, we need time, but today, politics, civil society, NGOs, government, human rights, lawyers, we really need to find a solution quickly, even if it's temporary. But for the sake of those children, we need to really establish something quickly. Thank you very much.